You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And yo, this is Terrance, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Thank you, everybody, for your continued support of our show here. And on this week's show, we are going to talk about the iFold Fold being confirmed, kind of. Series hype has a pretty high price tag. Last year's price is not this year's price when it comes to Apple products. We're also going to talk about the big kerfuffle between Anthropic and the government yet again. We're going to round it out in For the Culture, where we're going to talk some FIFA Fun around the US, as well as Juneteenth is coming up. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as we celebrate that new federal holiday. And then we're going to round it out with our tech tip of the week. Again, you can listen and or watch our show. You can rate our show and review our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Also, if you want to get some exclusive content as well as watch the show live, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobOScast to find out how you can watch the show live and get that exclusive content. All right, let's head into the lowdown where we talk all things Apple. First up, at WWDC, we covered it extensively, not only on our show, but Terrance and I both were on DTNS. But Apple didn't announce a foldable iPhone at WWDC, which makes sense because that's traditionally a software-driven event. But in the iOS 27 beta, it kind of outed them and let it and confirmed it for everybody. Well, people who are, looking for these kind of things and listening. But hidden within the iOS 27 developer beta, there are strings and code pointing to feature design specifically for a foldable device, including references to, quote, fold state or angle degrees, which tells the app whether the device is folded and at what angle it is. Apple's service utility, basically the internal tool that Apple uses to calibrate and repair iPhone displays, also contains code referencing a secondary display, 2 ambient light sensors, and a second cover glass. Mark Gurman and Marcus Brownlee both flagged the findings on social media, with Mark Gurman saying, quote, LOL, could they be any more blatant? So all signs of this is pointing to a September reveal. So we are getting closer and closer to Apple, I think, dropping little breadcrumbs because they know that people are going to dig into the beta and look for certain things. I think this is honestly just a little breadcrumb that Apple dropped to get the people talking. But in any event, it does signal that a fold is coming. Thoughts on whether this is something for real or just something, Apple just dropped into the beta because it's there and not necessarily indicating a new device?
Well, I mean, it indicates it's a new device, but this is not anything new from what has been discovered in the past. I don't think this is a purposeful thing that Apple did. Plus, I don't think they was trying to hide it for Mark Gurman to say, couldn't they be any more blatant? I'm like, bro, you've been digging through software updates for the past umpteen years. This is nothing different than you finding out that the dynamic island. This is nothing different than you finding out liquid glass. This is nothing different than you finding out an action button. There's no different than finding out a camera button on the side. All these things that Apple has revealed, whether it be new buttons, new features, or new hardware, they have to kind of bake it into the software to make sure that that product, that feature, that button works when the next iOS is released. So for Apple to for it to be discovered in the deep into the software is no new revelation, but also that's what's always happened, right? So
Yeah.
for some of the tech journals say, "Oh, look what we found." Y'all always find it there.
Yeah.
It's always in deep into the code of Apple's operating system. They find something. This is how they found out that Apple was doing the Home Pod pad thing that's going to have the Home Pod and the iPad smashed together. So this is techies, geeks, journalists digging through off iOS software to discover new things is nothing new. So why are we so surprised?
And I think people forget that it's called a developer beta for a reason. And there's a reason that it's launched 6 months before the new hardware and software rollout, because all of these apps that you love to use on your iPhone, these developers have to make sure that their apps are compatible with the new technology that Apple is dropping. So it's not like it's something that is unheard of. How are you going to have apps ready day one when the new iOS drops if the developers who build these apps to go on the phone didn't have the code already to be able to create their apps? I think people sometimes forget WWDC. It is an event for Apple enthusiasts, but at the core of it, it's a developer conference for people who create apps for these products so that they can sell them, so they can put them in the app store so that people can use them on their phone, watch, tablet, laptop, whatever device or product you have. And I think that has gotten lost over the years because it has been made to be such a social type of event.
Right.
All right. Next up, speaking of WWDC and things that we were expected, Siri. So Apple has agreed to a $250 million settlement over false advertising in a class action lawsuit alleging that it marketed the iPhone 16 lineup with enhanced Siri AI capabilities that did not exist at the time of sale, and in many cases still hadn't arrived. The preliminary approval hearing was scheduled for today, which is June 17th, Wednesday, at 9 a.m. this morning before Judge Noel Wise in San Jose, California. So if you purchased an iPhone 16 or certain iPhone 15 Pro models between June 10th and 2024, June 10th, 2024, and March 29th, 2025, you may be eligible for somewhere between $25 and $95 per device, depending on how many people file the claim.
I'll send them to Nica's iPhone.
I didn't mean for you to do that, ma'am.
I turned off all my Hey Siri or Siri. I got to press a button to do something on all my devices.
I probably need to take the time to do that. So, yeah, so the whole point of this, Apple is denying that they did anything wrong. But I think just to kind of close this part of the story out, there's like, here, $250 million is basically $25 to Apple. And everybody who bought, particularly the iPhone 16 line, for Apple Intelligence, you can file and get you a little bit of money back. So I want to ask you, in this context, we've known that for Apple, they, release a product and then, they may roll it out in phases. What do you see this particular case being so different from Apple doing this previously? Is it because of the time between when they said they were rolling it out and what it would do? Or is it something else?
I think Apple shot themselves in the foot when they gave up that previous class action lawsuit saying that anybody that bought a iPhone 16 Pro or Pro Max could get that class action lawsuit settlement. Now they didn't set themselves up for failure. So now they're coming back and doubling up and saying, but now if you had Siri, you can get the the settlement as well. So I think this is people who lawyers specifically who successfully got Apple to pay out that settlement for people who bought the phones. Now, like I said, are coming back and trying to get it for the Apple intelligence in general, right? So according to these people, people said not only Apple hyped up the phone, but they hyped up all the features in Apple intelligence and Siri or whatever the case may be when Apple couldn't deliver when they said they were. Again, this is just people just jumping on the opportunity. So I think Apple could have fought a little bit harder on the first one. And what they should did was, all right, once we do this settlement, this is the settlement. You can't come back again, right? Because technically they're right. You know, Apple hyped up the phone saying you can only get Apple intelligence if you get these phones. Many people, including myself, bought it.
Same.
And then they turned right back around and said, you know, okay, well now since since Siri and Apple Intelligence wasn't ready when y'all said it was, then y'all owe us for that, right? So I think Apple should have fought a little bit harder, either group these together or say, all right, this is the settlement. Y'all ain't gonna get both, get us double up on both the hardware and the software. But this is what happens when you over promise and under deliver. Apple's got to eat it. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, you weren't prepared for what you released. And that's why, you know, when we've been talking about WWDC, I always kind of add the caveat is if they can deliver on what they said, because honestly, I'm a little bit gun shy from the iPhone 16 and the Apple Intelligence that was supposed to come with it. So hopefully they deliver. If they don't, I'll be disappointed that they've missed the mark again. But at the same time, it'll be almost at this point like par for course. So I'm just waiting for them to actually do it. I'm waiting for September for them to actually roll out the phone, to roll out the new iOS, and for it to actually start. Because I believe in the announcement, they said that it's basically how we had to do with Apple Intelligence. You basically had to sign up for it after you upgraded the OS, and then there was another download for the Apple Intelligence stuff. So if they don't want another lawsuit with likely an even bigger price tag, if they don't deliver, this is what they're up to. But again, like I said, if you purchase an iPhone 16 or certain iPhone 15 Pro models between June 10th, 2024 and March 29th, 2025, you may be eligible for that $25 or $95. So keep an eye out on that email from whichever settlement company they used. So you can fill that out quick and early, because once the money runs out, the money runs out. Speaking of more money, it's not necessarily coming from Apple this time. It's coming from us. So Apple confirmed that there will be price increases coming with this products due to the RAM shortages. So in the Wall Street Journal interview that was published today, Tim Cook made it official and said Apple products are going to cost more. Tim Cook called the prices unavoidable. Let me actually read his actual quote so that I don't misquote him. He says, quote, "Unfortunately, price increases are unavoidable," he said. "We're doing our best to mitigate the huge increases that are being passed to us, and we've been trying to shield our customers from the increases, but the situation has become unsustainable." Tim Cook declined to offer details on the timing or the scale of the planned price increases. I'm thinking when they release the new devices on September, we'll see it. And it's, like I said, the next big thing is the iPhone 18 lineup, and potentially a new foldable phone. So we're talking RAM, so that goes across pretty much probably 95% of Apple devices. So that's not only your phones, that's your tablets, that's your Macs, that's your Mac Minis, all of these things. So he being Tim, mentioned that they've tried to basically shield customers from the increases, so absorbing some of those costs, but now they can't do it. So now I'm wondering just how good that relationship he has with this administration actually is.
Well, number one, they didn't try to shield us from anything. Don't believe that for a second when any company says, a company that's profits over everything. Don't believe for a second when anybody says, we've tried to shield customers from the price increases. No, they didn't. No, they did not. And number two, it's sad because the prices are not going to come back down. Yep. Even if memory shortages go away and the industry,
the ship is righted,
the industry figures out the process to normalize supply and demand, then prices is not coming back down. And it's just sad that this is a super convenient reason for yet another company to raise prices. All companies want to do is raise prices. They want to maximize profits. They want to minimize overhead. Ain't no company on the face of the earth will say, oh, now things are back to normal. Let's lower the prices going forward. Not a sale, not a rebate, not a discount. Like the prices to come back down. Cars, houses, clothes, food, gas,
any of it.
You
anything
name it.
You have to pay for.
Anything consumers have to spend money on.
Yeah.
Prices are not going to go up because of supply and then come back down when the demand is low. Most they'll do is offer a sale longer than they would. Now, Apple may like actually run sales on their products, which they normally don't do. They may do that, but then prices ain't coming back down. Once Apple hikes up the iPhone another $25, $50, $75, whatever that number is, in 2027, that's going to be the price. Then 2028,
that's the new baseline.
That's the price. 2029, 30, 40, that's the new price until something else happens when they figure out a convenient excuse to jack the price up again.
Yep, absolutely. And it's one of those things where I think in the last couple of Apple product releases, the prices haven't changed. People are like, oh, Apple didn't raise their prices. Apple didn't raise their prices.
Yet.
That was good for then, but it was inevitable because everybody else raised their prices and everybody else is making more money. So they're like, why should we be left out? We want to make more money too. So again, it's always unfortunate because the increase is always passed to the consumer, and the consumer always eats it. And once they see you're willing to pay for it, then they're going to stay there. Now, if say the new iPhone 18 is released and there is a $50 hike, if their sales take a steep decline and don't benchmark against the price of the other previous devices, then maybe they'll try and figure something out. But if people go in gung-ho and, buy like they normally do, it's like, well, they don't miss these $50. So who are we to not take it? So,
right. Again, companies are, the modus operandi is to make money. And the only way they're not going to make money is if we don't buy them. But we going to buy them, present company included. I'm looking for the next iPhone 18 or whatever the case may be. And I'm sitting on this microphone, grobble. But come September, I will have
swipe that card.
I'll put my money up. So, I'm trying not to be hypocritical over here.
I'm part of the problem. So it's one of those things where we'll see what the hike is. And the thing with the possibility of introducing the Fold, they'll be able to set an entirely new baseline sale for that because it's a new product and they don't have to kind of fall into that same type of cycle of, what Apple products typically cost. So I'm expecting this fold is probably going to cost a pretty penny. And best of luck to the people who buy them. I ain't buying it, but
never say never, but that phone is not handsome enough for me to buy it. Now again, record it, today is June 17th and I said I ain't buying it. If I end up with it in my hands in September, I'll eat that, but
don't hold it to me.
But right now,
yeah.
right now, that phone, as the way it looks, is not handsome enough for me to buy it when it's closed. Now, when it's open, it looks pretty nice. But when it's closed, which I don't see
most of the time it'll likely be.
Right, because I was just going to say, I don't see a logical reason for it to be open all the time. Now, when I'm just, sitting around, and using it as a second device while something's on TV, sure, I may open it up. I don't do enough on my phone productivity wise to negate the need to have the need to have it open all the time, because I'm just not super productive on smartphones. I'm productive on a laptop, and I'm even maybe a little bit more productive on a tablet, not even a whole lot, because tablets right now for me are strictly for consuming content, YouTube, whatever the case may be. I don't even read books that much anymore. I listen to audio, right? Same thing on the phone. It's even less productive. Now, I may thumb through social media. I may bang out a couple text messages. I may reply to an email, but I'm not Mr. Mobile productivity person at all. I feel most productive when I'm in front of a computer. So all that to say, the iPhone Fold, I don't need to justify that saying, oh, I could get all this work done if I had a phone that could fold out into it. Nope. It'd just be a bigger screen to watch stuff on. And I don't need to pay that much more money to do that. I could just turn my phone sideways.
And for me, it's more of, I won't say a philosophical thing, but I'm going to say philosophical thing, is if I have to use a device in one state to get the full benefit of it when you give me multiple states, then that's not worth it to me. That's not valuable to me. Philosophical is not the word I was looking for, but anyway, you get what I'm saying. If I have this device that is supposed to work in two modes, in two states, but it only works best in one, that's a waste of my money. Yeah. And it's going to work in a state that I don't really need it for that often. I need it in the original state for the most. It just doesn't make sense to me. So it's just like, nah, I'm good on it. But I've been saying this for a hot second. So they're going to have to really do something to get me to buy into a two-state, two-mode
and I would be okay with the two states if they didn't take away, like you said, the original state by shrinking the phone down. That is a new form factor that I'm not used to. And like you mentioned, if they do that form factor to where it's shrunken down in the single screen mode, and in order for me to get any sort of productivity done, like typing anything out, I got to open it up. Nope, I'm out. Now again, if it was the full brick phone, with the full screen, and I didn't, if it looked like anything,
my iPhone,
right,
and it opened,
and it gave me extra, that now we talking. But if you're taking something away and enforcing me to do this different thing to get similar functionality that I had prior to you doing this, no, thank you.
Nah, I'm good on it. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for the lowdown. Let's head on over into second string. Well, now you see it, now you don't. Fable 5. If you're not familiar with Fable 5, it is one of the really popular and powerful models with Anthropic. The U.S. government ordered, so it was the model Fable 5 was, I believe, released on the 12th, which was last Friday, I believe. And the U.S. government ordered Anthropic to immediately shut off access to both Fable 5 and Mythos 5, citing national security concerns over a claimed jailbreak. So we talked about Mythos before on this show, and it was in the context, I think it was called Project Glasswing. And this is when it had this really powerful model that they only gave to certain companies under strict parameters because it was too powerful to be let out in the wild. Well, it sounds like the government kind of took that to heart, but I think what the the overarching problem is that with this new model, if you use Claude, you have access to these models, and Anthropic couldn't filter out. I don't know if couldn't is the word. That's, what it's alluding to in the article. I'm saying probably wouldn't filter out foreign nationals from the US users in real time. So the company had no choice but to disable both models for everyone worldwide, not just foreign nationals and those people who had those export control orders that are aimed at it. So basically, my takeaway from this is, because this model could be used by everybody, the US government said, no, we only want it to be used by people in the United States or US citizens, which is honestly, I'm going to say kind of ridiculous because of the fact that this is a company that is a worldwide business. It's just not a business, or they don't just provide a service that's just for people in these contiguous United States. So this article from TechCrunch, it's interesting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the angle that the government is saying, well, you told us this was really, powerful and it shouldn't be released, so we're going to tell you to pull it. That angle I don't buy. The angle that I do buy is the fact that the government can't control who has access to it. And, you have to have a certain level of trust with these companies that they wouldn't put something out there that they didn't have some sort of level of control on, based off what they previously said and identified that this model can do. I'm pretty sure they went in and put some guardrails and some things on that, but it's giving to be dictatorship that you got to turn this off. And they did, and I believe this week, I believe today actually, the leadership and folks from Anthropic went to DC to talk to this administration about these highly technical topics. I'm sure some people who are not very highly technical, but I digress. But it's one of those things where, for me, I see it as an overreach in what the expectation is for people to use software that they've paid for or signed up for.
I've been trying to read this and other stuff, and I found on TechCrunch also a story about how they are suggesting that the government's takedown of these anthropic models and this ban was, quote unquote, never about an AI jailbreak. And they say, citing sources, Axios, I guess is the people who did the original reporting, described a tense situation over the weekend between two major players, saying that the personality difference, quotes, between Anthropic and the Trump administration led to the export directive rather than a technical issue with AI products. And I'm trying to look a little bit deep into this, but then it gets a little confusing. It says Katie Moussaris. I'm butchering her last name. Moussaris, a cybersecurity veteran and researcher who founded Luda Security, said in a blog post that Anthropic recently shared with her a private copy of a paper written by security researchers describing an alleged guardrail bypass in Fable 5. Quote, the Wall Street Journal reports that the paper's authors are security researchers at Amazon. Musaris said that Anthropic reached out to ask for her take on the paper. Musaris's blog post described how researchers at Amazon triggered the guardrail bypass, but said that the bypass itself should never have triggered an export control, which is what the export control is what then the government jumped on and said, oh, because of this export control, now we got to pull Fable and Mythos 5. The difference is largely between asking an AI model to, quote, review code for security issues versus asking it to fix the code. The end result is largely the same, even if the questions are posed slightly differently. Quote, I'll keep reading. The behavior described in the paper cannot meaningfully be fixed, and any attempt would only weaken the model for defense, said Musaris, who criticized the expert control. Again, the expert control is what the government jumped on and used that to pull Mythos and Fable. Said Musaris, who criticized the export control directive as hasty, heavy-handed, and misguided. Musaris and dozens of other top security researchers and experts have since called on the Trump administration to, quote, revoke the export control order, calling the move to pull advanced cybersecurity capabilities from network defenders in the U.S. as, quote, dangerous. So all that to say, the government ran with this idea from a competitor, but at the same time, if you look a little bit deep, Amazon is a investor in Anthropic, right? So on one hand, you got Amazon making money off of potentially could make money if Anthropic's IPO goes public and they can sell their shares, whatever the case may be. But on the other hand, they're a competitor because you got Gemini out there. You got all these other Amazon Web Services that use AI that other companies use AI for. On top of that, you got personality clashes because according to, the T and the, whatever the case may be, the leader, the CEO of Anthropic, butt heads, like I mentioned, with officials within the government and with other officials with other companies. So this is all sounds like, again, I'm not deep into it, but it sounds like a pissing contest.
It's not a technical issue. And again, this isn't the first time that Anthropic has gone to battle with the government. We talked about this months ago when it came to this same government wanting to run models, particularly I think it was on the weaponization of certain hardware. And Anthropic did not feel comfortable just handing it over all willy-nilly without any guardrails. And then that's when this current administration dropped them as a vendor, said no federal employees could use it in the corporate environment, in the federal government. Then, the next day OpenAI was like, well, we had counted the same thing and they agreed with us and they are allowing us to use ours. So that was the first kind of major thing that Anthropic said no to the government. We're not doing this. We're not doing what you want because we have concerns about it. And now when you bring in the issues with Fable 5, you have Amazon researchers digging into this and, coming up with these claims. And who is the head of Amazon? A huge benefactor to this current administration who's been at the White House multiple times, who was at the inauguration, who donated money personally to this ballroom crap. And so it all points to this not being a technical issue, to not being an issue with national security, but issues with people with very large egos who don't like to be told no.
Sounds like what it is. Again, we'll see if the government changes course, but who knows? Again, like you said, they are feuding. It's what it sounds like. And as a result, we are at fault, or not at fault. We, collateral damage because,
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't all into the AI like that. So, but I do use Claude, and I saw when it was available, and then I saw when it's not available.
Yeah.
I don't care because I ain't deep in AI like that. But there are some companies, there are some people who probably could, use these new models to do, I don't know, all kinds of things. And now they can't.
I know.
Because people beefing.
And I have to say, I was one of those people. I was in the middle of doing something and I didn't have time to play with Fable. And I had, seen people talk about, oh my God, this is so amazing. I can do this thing. I can do that thing. This is fantastic. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait because I have some free time so I can go and play with it and see what it does and try out some things. And by that time, it was like, no, girl, no more for you. And so, again, as we just talked about, the price increases are passed on to the consumer. And in this instance, the failure, that comes back to the consumer as well. So it's almost whether it's on either side, whether you're having to pay for something or whether you're having something taken away because of people who already have all the money in the world, who already have all the access in the world, who already have all the control in the world, aren't getting their way in like one specific thing. And so now we all have to suffer.
But Anthropic didn't do themselves no favors either. Because earlier when they launched it, they said like, "Oh, this is so dangerous. We can't release it to the wild. We gotta put some guardrails around it. And we need to talk to Apple.
And that was from Mythos.
And we need, you need to talk to Apple, and you need to talk to Amazon. You need to talk to all these. We need to get a round table together and have y'all look at it and let us know how dangerous or not this thing is." And then they turned around and said, "It's cool now. We're releasing it." So even on that, it's like, well, come on, y'all. I mean, you can't tell me something's dangerous and be like, "Oh, it's cool now." And I'm supposed to be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it sucks. And because of the people involved in this, I don't think they are going to allow Fable 5 or even Mythos 5 to be restored without Anthropic kissing the ring. And I don't know if Anthropic is going to kiss the ring because there have been multiple instances where they could have and made their life easier and they didn't. So we shall see.
Right.
All right. Enough AI. Bye. Let's head on into For the Culture where we talk about what's going on around us. FIFA World Cup is finally here physically. Here in Atlanta and all over the United States. And the matches have been really good. There's all these storylines kind of spurring from it. Cape Verde, they held Spain to like, I think it ended up in a draw. You have some of the smaller countries who are really making a presence. And surprisingly, the U.S. men's national team won their opening match. And if you know anything about soccer in America, it's all about the women's team because the women win World Cups and gold medals and all that type of thing. So people are like, whoa, we have an American team playing.
Relax. It's the first game. It's the first game. Relax.
And I think the other thing is that I'm getting a kick out of more than just the games themselves. It's the foreigners who are here from other countries who are taking part in American delicacies and shopping, and they are all on their social media and they are just blown away. They're blown away by Buc-ee's. They're blown away by Olive Garden. They're blown away by Walmart and Costco.
I don't believe it. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because everything is content. And them foreigners know coming over here and going on social media and holding their phones up and saying, they know it's going to get a lot of attention. Y'all, this ain't the first time foreigners have been on United States soil. They come over here on vacation all the time. Buc-ee's is, even though it's new, it's been around for a couple years now. So yeah, sure. Maybe there are some foreigners who are making their first trip over here, but also they know they're trying to get that content because everybody and their mama is a content creator now. So I see why on our end it would be entertaining because this is like watching somebody discover, like for instance, those 2 black kids or 3 black kids on YouTube. and they played a video of them listening to Phil Collins' "Feel It in the Air," right? You know how the song kind of slowly builds up and builds up and builds up, and when it gets into the bass line, do 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 do, and then it goes into the song. The kids lost their minds because you know, how could something
they ain't never heard nothing like that,
right? How could something this
so
old,
long ago,
right? Something this old be so dope, right? And it got millions and millions and millions of views. So people know what goes viral and what has the potential to go viral. So I credit me being a cynic, me being a skeptic, says these foreigners coming over here and acting crazy because they never had, you know, whatever experience we're used to. It's like, all right, you trying to get that content, but that's just me talking. So continue.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's probably some of that. Some of the ones that I've seen, it was this one lady from Australia, and she has been obsessed with Olive Garden, but she's never had Olive Garden because she's from Australia. And so she talks about her first time, you know, coming to the Olive Garden and being able to taste all the things that when she came over, you know, just her experience, her being able to physically experience things that she's seen on the internet. I think we talked about it, was it last week when the guy was like at the MARTA station? He was like, guys, it's kind of scary. But the German guy, and I think the thing with his is people, particularly in Europe, don't realize how big the United States is, because for them, they could travel somewhere 6 hours and they're in a whole different country. You can travel 6 hours and not even be out of, you know, halfway through Texas. So seeing them experience the expanse of the country, seeing them, that, you know, they talk all about their football stadiums and how great they are, and they come here. It's like most of these cities have multiple stadiums for multiple different sports, and their mind is blown. And people like, you're, you know, showing your, you know, your soccer field, and it's like that's a mid-tier, you know, field for a football team in Texas. That's not even top tier.
That's a high school arena.
Right, and that's high school. So, you know, seeing them see the differences of it, seeing them go to Costco and seeing how big it is, and it's like, oh my God, this is huge. It's like you get actually free samples. So seeing, it's kind of like wonderment. It's kind of like the National Geographic Explorer.
Or watching a kid enjoy ice cream for the first time.
Right. And it's just like watching them in their natural habitat. So for me, that's been one of the things that, you know, that's really brought me joy, particularly with FIFA. And, you know, when we first started talking about, you know, what's coming close, it was, you know, a lot of not great things because things weren't built. People weren't sure how everyone was going to respond. You know, you got
Things
the
were
ice
expensive.
stuff, things are expensive and all this kind of stuff. And I'm really glad to see that it's one of those things where it's turned out well so far. And I'm grateful for that. And I think I saw in Boston, I think the Swedish people, Norwegian people, I think that's where their games are. And the bars are running out of beer. One guy was like, we've sold 3 times as much as beer as we did during St. Patrick's Day. And if you know St. Patrick's Day in Boston, how big of a thing that is, they're like, these people are drinking us out. So it's just really fun to see, you know, people kind of, you know, coming together, especially, you know, the Knicks one. So it was kind of like FIFA and, you know, basketball, and people are just like happy. I'm really glad that it's turning out to be, you know, kind of like this cultural exchange, and people are really enjoying it. You know, the soccer itself is kind of on the peripheral for me, but seeing these aspects of it, that's the part that I think I'm enjoying the most out of FIFA. And I know you're a soccer guy.
Yeah, I was
you got a
gonna say,
little dude that's a soccer.
Soccer ain't on the peripheral for me. I've been watching the games, and it is good to see, even the United States, everybody is competitive. There are no landslides, with the exception, I think maybe Germany ran up the points, like 6-7 points. But other than that, the games have been close, and the stars are showing out like you would want them to. So you got Kylian Mbappe. You know, it's a black dude from France.
I know him because he's attractive.
He scored a couple goals. You got Eric, I think his name is Eric Haaland from Norway, ran up the points. He's a superstar in soccer world. You know, you got Lionel Messi scored a hat trick. You know, he's the youngest to ever score a point and the oldest to ever score a point in FIFA. You got, a couple other people coming up, and the United States, right? United States won their game. You know, it was 1-0, but that's on average, that is a score in soccer, a competitive game, right? Yeah. Time will tell if United States can last, going through the group play. Yeah, group play into, semifinals, quarterfinals, semifinals, so on and so forth. But I mean, they look competitive just like every other team. And like, that is what is most enjoyable to me, which is has me watching games I wouldn't normally watch. Because all the team, even like you mentioned, there are some countries who this is their first time at the World Cup, and they're not getting destroyed, right? So all that makes for good competitive play. You got the little teams doing good. You got the superstars doing what the superstars do. And
seeing all the communities. Like, I didn't realize there was such a huge... I actually know a guy who's Cape Verdean, but I didn't realize there was like a huge Cape Verdean contingent, and they got together and had like a watch party and had their gear on and was cheering. It's that type of stuff. And I think they scored one goal, and for them, they were like, that's a win. Because
that was their first goal. Because that's their first time
against
scoring.
A major team. So.
Right. So, I mean, that is monumental or sentimental rather, that, this is something that goes down in history books. This is their first time getting into the World Cup. Their country ain't nothing but maybe 500,000 people at the most, and I may be overshooting it by a couple 100,000.
Probably.
But
they probably have 500,000 square feet of land.
Right. I don't know what the exact number is, but the fact that they are here in the World Cup and they competing. Yeah. Because that's what eventually, soccer fans want to see, competition. They want to see their premier players do good, but you want to see some exciting plays. Right. And that's what I've seen with the World Cup.
And let me just say that the Congo outfit, their arrival outfit, was fire. And the designer actually posted on social media, because everybody's like, who is this? Where did this come from? I want that bag, that kind of thing. So it's good to see, those kind of things come out of it. So with all these changes in perspective now, have your thoughts changed on going down to experience any of the fan experience?
Maybe. Right now it's just so busy for me and my family. Got a lot going on this weekend. I've considered maybe going to like a watch party at another place other than actual down city, where this, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is, where typically like these big events would be. We'll see. I may wait until it gets down to maybe the semifinals, here in Atlanta, because I think Mercedes-Benz Stadium does have like 2 or 3 semifinal matches. I may go down and be a part of the experience down there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much conceded actually going to the actual game.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, as bucket list that is, I just cannot justify the cost. I just cannot justify the cost for one, if not 2 tickets for 90 minutes. It's just that cost. I just can't do it. Now, conversely, real quick, I took my son to Ultimate Frisbee a game last Friday. Inexpensive ticket. You had a good time. We had a good time. They let you go out on the field at quote unquote halftime and throw the Frisbee around. I got my son. He wanted the team. The Atlanta Hustle is the name of the Ultimate Frisbee team here in Atlanta. Is down the street from the house. No, maybe not down the street. Like 15 minutes away. I ain't got to deal with traffic. And we got to get on the field, and my son was able to get his Frisbee signed by the MVP of the Atlanta Hustle. So it's like, I'll do that. all day long before spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go to a game that, while monumental, is only 90 minutes. And then I still got to look at that credit card payment
Right.
when it hit my account.
You gotta,
when it hit
you
my
gotta
email.
put that, you gotta pay that back. It's like, yikes. I think my mind has definitely shifted. I think I definitely do want to go down, and, do the fan experience. I know, what is it? Cosmo, that space, they're doing watch parties. And that's a big thing. And they're the different fan experiences around, Mercedes-Benz itself. So, just to kind of say I was there, I was in it, I definitely may take a trip down there.
Now, if there's a Cinderella team, like a DR Congo, like Cape Verde, one of them teams that make it far and they're doing good, that may motivate me, because I love rooting for underdogs. I love it. If just for anything, just for the Goliath to be toppled, right? I may pull up for that.
Yeah. All right. Before we head out of For the Culture, if you're not a Patreon supporter and you're listening to this when the episode drops on Friday, definitely want to say a happy Juneteenth. And for those of our listeners who may not know exactly what Juneteenth is, June 19th, 1865 was the day that the last of the enslaved African Americans down in Galveston, Texas, were informed that they were free. And this is more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed that said nobody is a slave. Opal Lee, who is known as the mother of Juneteenth, one of its, one of the people, one of our elders who really fought to have Juneteenth recognized as a federal holiday, that actually finally came to fruition back when Joe Biden was in office. I believe this was back in 2021 when it was made a federal holiday. So if your company does not give you is not celebrating with a day off, definitely take that day for yourself. I know when I was working corporate, I most certainly use one of my PTO days for that. And I know that there are celebrations all over this country, because it is a Black American, African American, United States of America specific holiday, even though it is for Black people. But Black people are everywhere. But this is a Freedom Day. I think it was back in the day, it was often referenced as not Day of Jubilee, but I think it was like Jubilee Day or something like that. Definitely, there are so many ways to celebrate. I know there are a lot of events. People have outfits, and I've even seen some people say they are using this day as a day of rest, because being a Black person is exhausting, particularly in this country. And so they are going to take the day to rest. So whichever way you choose to celebrate Juneteenth, I hope you enjoy it. I hope it is safe. I hope it is refreshing and rejuvenating for everyone who's celebrating.
Yep.
All right, that's going to wrap up For the Culture. Let's head into the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
All right, so this is more of a notification than anything. If you are a Nike fan or you need to buy some Nike products, you can get double your cash back if you pay at Nike with Apple Card. Let me give you the details. From now through July 15th, Apple Card holders can earn 6% daily cash back on Nike purchases, double the usual 3%. This applies to Nike retail stores, Nike.com, the Swoosh website, and Nike's apps. The bonus is capped at $500, so you can't run it up, but you can stack. So that means you can stack as much as $30 back if you run it up to $500. A couple of things worth noting. You need to pay with an Apple Card and use Apple Pay to get the elevated rate. So you can't take your Apple Card and stick it into the chip reader. You actually have to use Apple Pay. Take your phone with the Apple Card on it and tap it on the thing, or use your watch, or however you do it. You have to use that route. It has to be an Apple Pay. It has to be Apple Card, and it has to be Apple Pay in order to get the 6% cash back. So I just want to give you that for the hookup. Father's Day is coming up. If you're looking for some gear for your special dad in your life, you may want to check out Nike so you can get a little cash back in celebration of this coming Father's Day weekend.
Excellent. And that's good to know, because I have not gotten my father anything yet for Father's Day. I was talking to my brother today and we were trying to figure that out, and this may be an option and earn some cash back. So cool. Mm-hmm. That is going to wrap up this week's show. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the interwebs as well. You can also find our show at SnobOScast on all the social media outlets as well. You can also head on over to snobOScast.com to get details on how to connect, how to comment, and how to share our show. And with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.